Let me read to you a passage from the 14th chapter of St. Luke's Gospel, verses 25 to 33. It's the Gospel for Wednesday of the 31st week in Ordinary Time. St. Luke writes, "Large crowds were traveling with Jesus, and turning to them he said, 'If anyone comes to me and does not hate father and mother and wife and children, brothers and sisters, yes, even life itself, such a person cannot be my disciple. And whoever does not carry their cross and follow me cannot be my disciple.' Suppose one of you wants to build a tower. Won't you first sit down and estimate the cost to see if you have enough money to complete it? For if you lay the foundation and are not able to finish it, everyone who sees it will ridicule you, saying, 'This person began to build and wasn't able to finish.' Or suppose a king is about to go to war against another king. Won't he first sit down and consider whether he is able with 10,000 men to oppose the one coming against him with 20,000? If he is not able to, he will send a delegation while the other is still a long way off and will ask for terms of peace. In the same way, those of you who do not give up everything you have cannot be my disciples." That's from Luke chapter 14, verse 25 to 33. We're led to think of planning in the spiritual life. Things don't just happen. A bird flies past and it has some twig or some stuffing in its beak. It is heading towards the nest that it is building. The bird, of course, has not paused to plan the building of the nest. It can't plan anything. It acts on instinct, and its instinct carries it along in the work of building the nest. In a sense, the bird has not worked at it. Rather, it is the instinct with which it has been endowed that leads the bird along in the work. But a work is being done in the sense that the nest does not just happen. Behind it all, the Creator is working, and there is a plan. The tree sprouts, grows, and over the many decades becomes a large tree, living for centuries and serving various purposes in the larger scheme of things. All across the animal, insect, and the plant domains, a great work is going on, driven by the ordered structure and nature given to things by their Creator. Everything has its pattern of activity, its plan, and those patterns make for the due development of things according to their measure. Things don't just happen. Indeed, man constantly intervenes in the processes of nature in order to make things work even better and according to his plan. Thus there is technology, applying the laws of nature to better and higher uses so as to attain better work. One of the temptations of man, who is manifestly the Lord of the world, is to think that things will just happen. That is, man can be lazy. When God created man, he made him in his own image, after our own likeness, we read, Genesis chapter 1, verse 26. The first thing this meant was dominion. Let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the birds of the air, and over every creeping thing. Chapter 1, verse 26. It involved the mission to fill the earth and subdue it. Chapter 1, verse 28. And this required work. Things were not just going to happen. Work did not spring from the original fall of man. He was set to work on being created. What the fall did was to make of work not only a great joy, which it remains, but a source of great suffering too. The point here is that things were not meant to just happen. This law of work by which the world and man would develop and attain fulfillment remains. It is man's glory, reflecting the life of the Creator, that he can see what should be done and then plan to bring it about. He aspires to marry and have a family. Well, he must plan and work at it. Even if circumstances conspire to make the project very difficult, he ought to work at it. Even if he fails in certain respects, his working at it for the right reason will make of him a better person. He will have become more of a man precisely because of his dutiful and worthwhile work, even if that work has not had, for various reasons, great success. But normally the work will prosper to a point precisely because of his plan and efforts. And so the world flourishes. Now, there are some projects which are immensely important, so important that every person is called to work at them. They can never be allowed, as it were, to just happen. Indeed, God himself has commanded that we all work at them might and main. I'm referring, of course, to the work of loving God with our whole mind, heart, soul, and strength. On one occasion, our Lord was asked, "What is the first commandment of the law?" And he answered instantly, "It is the command to love God with our whole being and our neighbor as ourselves." But this will not just happen. We have to work at it every day and keep up the work constantly. All this brings us to the gospel I read earlier from Luke chapter 14, verse 25 to 33, in which our Lord tells us the parable of the man who had to build the tower, and of the king who was at war with another king. Suppose one of you wants to build a tower. Won't you first sit down and estimate the cost to see if you have enough money to complete it? Again, or suppose a king is about to go to war against another king. Won't he first sit down and consider whether he is able, with 10,000 men, to oppose the one coming against him with 20,000? That is to say, you must count the cost, plan carefully, and work at it with system. So it is in the work of following Jesus Christ, of being his disciple. This is absolutely necessary in the Christian life because Christ demands one's whole life and heart. It is no light undertaking being a Christian, a Catholic. It requires a plan of life and strong execution. If one is to grow in the love of Christ and live a life consistent with this goal, one cannot think it will just happen. One must sit down, count the cost, plan carefully with the church's best advice, using all the help of grace available from the church's ministry, and then work at loving Christ with all one's heart according to the plan. It is the work not of a day but of a lifetime, but every day counts. Let us take up the work, beginning now, for who knows, this day the demand may be made for our soul, and what then?